question that pops up often for new speakers is, do I belong? You go to an annual conference in your niche and you see a ton of great speakers. Their talks were great from beginning to the end, and they were confident in their entire keynote. Now, as they wrap up and head to the back of the room, there are lines of people following behind them, ready to purchase a signed autograph of their latest book, which also happens to be a New York Times bestseller. Maybe I made this up, or maybe you really did witness this. It happens to many upcoming speakers often. They see an established speaker who has been in the game for decades, and they immediately question if they even belong. Imposter syndrome is one of the biggest fears that can stop you from ever attempting to go on stage or even call yourself a public speaker. At the base of this question is a person feeling out of place, maybe even intimidated. Even the most successful speakers with all the accomplishments and accolades you can think of may have felt unqualified at one point in time. So if you ever felt that way, you aren't alone. The person that inspires you the most may have felt like that way early in their career. Dealing with imposter syndrome is more common than you think, but you should never let it defeat you. Each of us are public speakers in some form or fashion. I say this all the time. We do it every day, but unfortunately, many of us feel like we have to be on a big stage in front of thousands of people to be deemed a public speaker. And that's simply not true. When you're part of a group conversation on the job and it's your turn to talk about what you contributed to the latest project, you're a public speaker. When you're representing your company at the annual conference, you may only have 1 minute or 2 minutes to talk about what you all do, you're a public speaker. When you volunteer to be the boys basketball coach at your local YMCA, you're taking on the role of not only a leader, but a public speaker. You already embody what it takes to become a public speaker because you're most likely doing it more often than you think. So many of us constantly are already doing it. So before you say you can't do it, envision that you already are and take the numbers out of it. You only need to affect one person at a time. If you keep developing and improving your message, word will spread and you'll grow your following over time. But when you're starting out, don't think that you don't belong because you may have some empty seats. If you want to build your brand and spread your ideas, public speaking is the way to do it. But at the same time, the thought of being a public speaker can be one of the most intimidating things you ever have to go through. Feelings of self-doubt and the constant question of what if can get stronger and stronger the closer you get to presentation time. Everybody's attention on you and they'll see every success and mistake. But we often forget that we're human and your audience is human too. Although you might hold yourself to a high standard, you aren't beyond feeling those human emotions. There's also a high likelihood you wouldn't be asked to speak if someone didn't believe you had something of value to offer. Putting those two things in perspective can help you manage the I don't belong feeling rather quickly when you put things into perspective. Remember, being vulnerable just means that you're aware of what's at stake. It should push you to move with intent and prepare for all scenarios. It shouldn't scare you into thinking you aren't worthy enough. Being unsure just means that you could be trying something new, which is what many go a lifetime without ever doing. Many love to stay in their safety zone. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't do something because it makes you nervous. If you ever find yourself speaking at a conference or just a regular gig and you feel like you're the best person to speak by far, then congrats. You may have gotten a check, but you didn't grow. You always want to be able to learn from people who are steps ahead of you. You shouldn't feel intimidated. You should feel inspired because at one point they were in the same position you're currently in, or maybe even worse. The only thing is that they got over their fear of feeling like they didn't belong and kept going. So what's your excuse? Everyone has a message to spread. So it doesn't matter if you see somebody with the same message that may be 10 times better than you. It's all about the perspective that you can bring. You belong and your message needs to be heard as well. If you found this tip useful, please like it and share it. Comment on it as well and let me know what you think. Until next Monday, my name is Julian Leonard and this tip was brought to you by the J. Leonard Group.